Hello and welcome to the BusinessXtoY podcast, the weekly podcast where we discuss business from a generational perspective. I nailed it this week. I made up for last week. I'm Brian, representing Generation X.
I'm Brandon, representing Generation Y.
Ooh, that felt good. This is the episode 13, recording on July 8th, 2019, for release on Wednesday, 10th, 2019. How was your week, my man?
Pretty solid. No complaints. I got to go home and enjoy my 4th of July festives with my friends and family. Had a really good time.
Yeah, well, enjoy those times while it lasts, man. I spent both 4th of July helping my parents move into a new house, and my niece was there, and she was like, hey, let's do fireworks. And I was like, well, you've definitely earned some fireworks, sweetie, but I'm an old man, and the explosions bother me, so you go enjoy the fireworks, I'm going to take a nap. Yeah. I started 4th of July stopped being. I used to love that holiday, by the way, but 4th of July stopped being a fun holiday for me. Like around the time I was like 31. Yeah, it was like exactly my 31st year of existence on this planet. I went to a fireworks display. The explosions were super loud. They gave me a headache. I kind of got what's it called? You get that vertigo feeling. Yeah, like I got that. I think it's just because football and concussions and the rest of that stuff. Those explosions, send shock waves through my body and through my head and stuff that just make me feel dizzy and stuff. So those are no fun. Roller coasters too, also no fun for me now.
Yeah, I got you. I definitely
don't get old, Brandon. It sucks. Just don't do it.
Yeah, I was just mainly out for the late night festives.
Yeah. I used to really love to barbecue on the 4th of July. I used to love standing in front of a barbecue grill and just cooking all damn day, watching fireworks, drinking, getting my buzz on.
Yeah.
But not no more. not no more. I'm an old ass man. Naps are good. All right. Well, this week we have 3 stories worth talking about, and we got our main topic, which Brandon will talk about later. Without further ado, let's get into the stories. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Podshare is a service that sells you a $1,200 a month bunk bed. You interested? No takers. All right. So, how high would the rent in San Francisco have to be before paying $1,200 a month to rent a bunk bed? Really, just one, not a whole bunk bed either. You just get one bunk. So one bunk, and a house that you share with like 5 other people. What would that number for an apartment by yourself have to be before you started thinking about, $1,200? I'll take the one bunk, option.
I don't even know. That's ridiculous to even consider.
All right. So the average rent in San Francisco for a apartment that is the average size in San Francisco of 789 square feet. The average rent for that apartment is $3,616 a month. Which honestly, that's cheap for San Francisco. I found that on a website. I didn't do a whole lot of other research looking it up, but people that I know that live there, I don't know any of them. Any of my friends that live in San Francisco, I don't know any of them that don't pay less than $4,000 a month for little tiny closets of apartments. Apartments.
I want to live there.
Yeah, apartments that are half that size. I have a buddy that lives in San Francisco in a 500 square foot apartment, studio apartment, in which if he's in his bathroom, if he opens his bathroom door, he cannot open his oven. That's how close they are. He's got his bathroom door open. His oven the oven door cannot open.
I'm going elsewhere.
Yeah, and he pays over $4,000 a month for his apartment. He's a software engineer and he makes good money, but he has not found a place to live other than that place as of yet. So $1,200 a month for one bunk bed in which you share with 5 other people, in which internet is included, utilities are included, cable is included, furniture, it's a furnished apartment, and they actually put some food in the refrigerator for you guys. Cereal, ramen noodles, Slim Jims, stuff like that are community food that everybody can eat and is included in the rent. That's not looking so bad now, right?
Well, 12 people.
5 people. 5 other people. 6 total. 6 total. 4 floors. 4 floors. 6 total people. TVs. Internet.
That's not that bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad. It starts.
If I'm allowed, me and my friends could definitely make that happen. We would make that work.
Well, you got 6 people that you know that you're comfortable living with, like that close. Bunk beds.
I have more than 6 people like that.
Ooh, I do not. I think
it's just being young.
Yeah. Oh, did I? When I was older? No, I did not. I think it's just being branded. No. Even when I was in my 20s, I couldn't have pulled that off. No, I did not. I wouldn't have been able to invite. There certainly wouldn't have been like 6 people that I would want to live with, but there certainly isn't like 5 other people that would want to live with me like that. So no, that would not be a good thing for me. I would have a better luck with strangers. I'd have a better luck rolling random dice and taking my chance on an axe murderer than trying to get people that I knew to try and pick that particular route. But also, right, I grew up, in a city that like a $1,200 a month rent in the city I grew up in would get you a palace. It would get you you'd have a waterfall. So but in San Francisco you might everybody's attitudes might change. I live real close with one roommate. Well, I guess that's not true. There was 4 roommates in this one place I lived in D.C., and the place, the actual part that I paid rent for, is actually very similar to this deal, but I only shared it with one other person, like my part of it. Then there was an upstairs part of the house that, that you had some reasonable use of, like stuff like that. But for the most part, you didn't really go up there. You just kind of stayed in your part and there. And DC's an expensive city to live too. Not San Francisco level. That's a whole new level.
Yeah, it's because of all the tech companies and all the money there.
Yeah, and that's something like it was bad like when I was younger, right? Before before when Amazon was a thing, but not when Twitter was a thing. You know what I'm talking about? That time period, right? So rent was already expensive in San Francisco, just because of colleges and the other opportunities that were there. But then the tech, bubble exploded in that area, and now it's just at a whole new level. We're talking like rents like Japan, during the like Tokyo during the 80s.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Yeah, I just a quick aside. This is a piece of history that only people who are born in the 80s, that lived through the 80s time period. But there was a time period in Tokyo where all the real estate in Tokyo was worth more than all the real estate in the United States of America, and that includes Los Angeles and New York.
Why?
Tokyo had a economic explosion similar to Silicon Valley's economic explosion, except at a magnitude, 50 times what.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's one of those things that's like, it sounds like I misspoke, right? It sounds like I couldn't possibly have that correct, but there absolutely is a few years during the 1980s where that's absolutely true, and then their economy took a nosedive, which I would have to meet some Japanese people and talk about how that time period was, because as bad as our economy, would take a nosedive, like during my lifetime, there's been no economy that was up so high then down so low in my entire life.
Interesting.
I only know about it from afar, but I would be really interested to speak to, Japanese people a little bit older than me, maybe 15 years, maybe 20 years older than me, about, how living during that time period was.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right, you ready for the next story?
Yeah.
All right. An idea so good, it has little chance of coming to the United States. There is an island called Porto Santo, and they are using solar-powered electric cars, right, to, at night, send electricity back into their grid.
Wow.
It's a great idea, right? So such a good idea. There's no chance that it'll ever happen in the United States, and there's no excuse for why we couldn't do it either, right? There's we'd make all these excuses like, well, it's an island, obviously, and they have different concerns than we do. But we have way more cars. Your car, think about it, what your car does in a day, right? Mostly it sits still in the sun. It's a perfect place to put a solar panel,
Yeah.
and then you plug that vehicle into an outlet, and it sends electricity from the battery when you're not driving it at night while you're sleeping to power the grid for the for the rest of the island. And then when you wake up in the morning, you'll get enough juice for it to do the things you need to do. And by the way, when you go to work and you leave it in a parking space, it's getting power from the sun to take you to go get lunch or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes too much sense, but we're too busy overturning Clean Air Acts.
Yeah.
Further retorting back to fossil fuel.
Yeah. We're trying to be Saudi Arabia. Like, that's a great idea. Yeah, let's produce the most oil in the whole world. That's what. There's no downside to that. What? There's no way we could possibly. There's so many cars in this country. If we passed a law. Right? It's not even if the whole country doesn't have to do it. If California says, hey, from now on, solar panels be on every car, right? That would, the car industry would throw their arms up in the air and scream and yell about it, but then they would do it, and then world peace would happen about 3 to 5 years later.
Yeah, but that will never.
Yeah, no, it makes too much sense. Yeah, it would make too much sense. Yeah. By the way, a short list of things that car companies have screamed and yelled about: putting seatbelts in every single car, putting airbags in every single car, and putting windshield wipers on every single car. These are 3 things, real quick, that the car industry said, no, it'll make cars too expensive. You can't make us. And then they did it, and it was like, oh, I guess everybody's okay still. I guess we still all have cars. Never mind. Seatbelts, I swear to God, seatbelts was the thing that they were like, you don't need to put seatbelts in every car. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Towards the end of my childhood, we finally got people to stop thinking that if you get into a car accident, it's actually better to get thrown from the car. That was literally a thing that people who claim to be smart people would tell you. It's better to be thrown out of the car.
Are you serious?
I'm serious, man. I'm serious. That was that was an argument that was ended by the time I was 6 years old. So it was still going. It was still a fierce debate. Oh, you missed another argument. See this? There was an argument too for a while that on a totally other tangent that cigarettes doesn't cause cancer. Do you happen to remember that? Because they were just finishing that up, but when you were a little kid, right? And that's that was kind of how the argument with the seatbelt thing was too. They were just finished that argument off. People, everybody had finally come around and be like, I guess it's better to stay in the car, when you get into a car accident. There was an idea that car accidents ended in explosions, and if you were thrown from the car, they could, that could save your life.
People are dumb.
People are done, and it's I don't think that argument was fought as hard as climate change is a myth from the Chinese, or cigarettes don't cause cancer and stuff like that. I don't think nobody fought that it's better to get thrown from your car that hard, but it was close. It was similar, and I guarantee you that people who do these lies now look at that particular myth campaign for ideas and mistakes that were made and ways that they can do it better.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, you ready for the last story?
Yes, sir.
All right. Emojis are now admissible in court. In the world in which we live in today, judges actually have to take a look and interpret when they see text message evidence and try and interpret the way emojis are used. So is a knife in a text message, is that a threat? Is a heart in a emoji, is that sexual harassment? Should courts start employing 12-year-olds as expert witnesses to interpret emojis? The last one was a joke. Shrug emoji. Yeah, that's how the notes are going to read in the episode. I am I think you can guess from the way I send you text messages, right? I am not an emoji person. I think in my entire life, you could probably count how many times through, I think at this point, if not millions, at least hundreds of thousands of text messages I've sent. On two hands, how many emojis I've actually used, much to the consternation of every girlfriend I've had for the last 15 years. Every girlfriend I've had in the last 15 years loves emojis, sends me emojis frequently, and I go, "What? I don't know what that means. What are you talking about?" and they'll have to actually use words to explain it to me. But I'm a person who likes to communicate fairly precisely, and I think emojis are kind of a improvised way of speaking. I'm sure you have a different take. Feel free to expound.
Okay, well, yeah, I have a vast different take, and it's just because I was raised in a different age.
Yes, sir.
But I think they should. I mean, it makes sense to do that because, like, emojis, an emoji can tell you a lot, or it can tell you a little. You know what I mean? It's all about. It's an emoji's like emojis can be used like an inside joke. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, especially like you said with girls, like girls can tell you a lot in emojis. So, like, I understand why the court would want to do that. Not like directly relating to girls, but I'm just saying, like, in the overall circumstances of things, like, a lot of people use emojis in different ways.
Well, and as the article kind of states, it, like, communication is communication, intent is intent, and, a court needs to make the, needs to take the correct...
It's dangerous, though.
Oh, yeah.
It's dangerous for them to use that in the court of law.
Well, what are you going to do? Say if there's an emoji in a text, that text is automatically inadmissible? Well, then all drug dealers would do is send messages in emojis. Be like, Your Honor, emoji amendment says you can't use these against me.
Yeah, but that's the problem that comes with them doing that.
Yeah.
Is because it leaves such a gray area.
Right.
And you're dealing with somebody's life and freedom in a gray area, especially with the climate that we have right now. Like, it's not. No, I don't think any good can come from this.
Or do you think I'm
something that's definitely considerable?
Do you think I'm kind of ahead in the game for never using emojis, or do you think I'm going to have to eventually break down and step my emoji game up if I want to communicate, effectively in this new world?
No, you don't have to. It's not necessarily like I don't use emojis all the time. I only use emojis with certain people.
Yeah, I can't recall a person breaking up with me over my non-use of emojis, but I can tell you that it has caused hurt feelings, the fact that I didn't understand something, how about the fact that I didn't understand, like the fact that I asked for clarification on the subject,
yeah,
like that I was like, I don't know what you mean. What what the word what, capital WHAT, then question mark after it, has started an argument after the person sends me an emoji heavy sentence.
Oh yeah, I understand that because because that's the thing about a text message. There's nothing more to tell you about the intent or like it. There's nothing to give you real context. You know what I mean? Like, at least when you're saying something to somebody, you can tell by the way that their voice is being inflected or their tonality and what way they're meaning it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you were in front of her and you would have been like, what? Like, she would have been like, oh, this means this. But the way that you sent it, just the text, what, makes it seem like you're questioning, like, what she sent you. So if she sent you some, like, lovey-dovey, emotional, emoji-filled text, and you're like, what? Like, if she's like, I love you so much, and you're like, what? It seems like you're saying, like, what? Like, you're questioning.
Yep. It's almost like you were there. It wasn't quite that simple, but it was absolutely a thing. Had I understood emojis, it wasn't like we were in an argument before. We were in a good place before. It was the fact that I had no idea what she meant, and I sent. She felt that the word what. It's not like I typed it in all caps. I said it the exact way I did it too. Capital WHAT. Question mark, right? And like, that was an insult to her. that was disrespectful. That was demeaning. I was like, I don't know. I just didn't. I probably should have added some other words in that sentence, but I was busy, and I thought the conversation was over with. And then I got this list of pictures, and I was like, what the is this? I don't know what any of this means.
She's very fond of you. She's sending you all that, and you said what?
What? Yes.
She probably thought you were denying her, and she's like, oh wow. That
spawned a long text message rapid fire with actual words, and some of those words were not nice. And I was just befuddled, confused. I was also moving a friend. I remember having a sofa in my arms, helping a friend with my cell phone in one hand. Reading this stuff, going, why is she? God, I can't win with these ladies. I don't know why she's mad at me right now. I thought we were. Yeah, I thought we were good.
For her to be reacting like this.
Huh? A couple days.
We got the date.
Couple days.
What?
Yeah, couple days. Couple days. Yeah, like 5 days. Like one date, one like lunch thing, and then stuff like that. Yeah, a couple days. Wasn't even a week, man. 5 days max. Wasn't 7. I can tell you that for sure.
Okay, so y'all guys hung out, so that's probably why she's acting crazy. Unless she's already crazy, because that sounds pretty crazy.
She was also already crazy, and she could type so fast, my dude. So fast.
She's definitely crazy. That's like grade A crazy. That's what I end up with all the time.
My God. Type so fast. Talk slow. Type fast.
Oh, so was she quiet or was she
quiet?
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, quiet. Shy and like when around other people and stuff like that, and then
sleep.
Yeah, and then like vicious sometimes in private, and
I bet you pissed her off in front of some people and she just murdered you with her eyes while you're in the same room.
I honestly I can't recall Oh, you know what? And I think you're right. Yeah, no, you did you date this girl too?
Oh man,
oh shit. Yeah, no, I can. You know what? And honestly, right? I was about to say I didn't really date her that long to have that situation happen, and I thought, oh yeah, that bowling thing. She did give me the dirty look, right? And I didn't, because I'm just not.
Murdered you with the eyes. Strangled you with their eyes.
And the thing is, right? I need people to say things to me, right? I'm a communicator. I'm a salesperson, right? I get information from you from listening to you, and then put it. I cannot read your mind. I certainly can't figure out your pictographs. Leave me alone with that nonsense. all right. Yeah. I'm good now. I got to get this emoji thing out, and I get to take out some much needed therapy. I appreciate that, Brandon. You're like my Generation Y therapist. I appreciate.
Hey, no problem. Just by the conversation that we just had, you can tell I've been.
Okay, sorry about that, folks. Some technical difficulties. You didn't miss anything, all that fun. We caught it pretty quickly. So, and we're ready to move on to the main topic anyway. So, to introduce the main topic, Brandon, please tell us what the main topic is this week.
So, the main topic for this week is something that I'm experimenting myself. It's learning a new skill.
That's good. I joked with you earlier, right? I'm getting that old dog spot. So my nephew wanted to teach me how to use Linux, and I'm like, get out of here with that nonsense. I know how to use Windows, and I know how to use Microsoft. I don't got space in my brain for another operating system.
That's funny. Yeah. So you're like, I'm confused on that because you're still learning every day. How do you figure that?
Like a big thing, like a brand new operating system for a computer, or like how to program computers, or how to drive stick, dude. I'm not learning that. Every car I'm gonna own for the rest of my life is gonna be an automatic. I don't care.
I got you. I mean, I get you. I mean, I think it's honestly just like a willingness thing. But that's just learning in general. If you're not motivated to learn it, you're not going to learn it. Yeah. And also, too, for us old guys out there, for all you old folks listening, and I appreciate everybody who started listening from Spotify, iTunes, and CastBox, to name just a few places. Thank you very much for listening. But for all you old guys out there who understand the way I feel, right? You have to make space to learn stuff too. I know it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you young guys. I know, Brandon, you don't probably feel that way, but you do. To learn a new thing, I gotta boot out some of this old stuff that I got, and I don't, some of the old stuff I got, even though some of it's useless, right? How to, record, a cassette tape to another cassette tape. That's not a skill I'm ever going to use again. But I kind of like to keep that. I don't want to get rid of that. I don't want to delete that. You're literally holding on to that as memorabilia.
Yeah. 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 All right, I'm going to stop interrupting. Go right ahead. No more of my naysaying. Tell people how to learn new stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like overall, I feel like that's just like a great thing to, learn how. Like, I feel like just knowing how to learn a skill is a skill in itself, just because it's a process. Everything that you do is a process.
Absolutely.
The skill that I'm looking, to pick up is copywriting and writing in general and editing, just because it seems to be something that I gravitate towards naturally. Like, being good with words. So I feel like I'm just gonna treat it like I treated everything else, and just kind of immerse myself in it, and just find different ways to apply it and practice it. I feel like those are key things in learning anything.
You have a step-by-step, like a 3-step process you do, or do you have more of a holistic philosophy about learning a new skill?
Me personally, it's more of a step-by-step thing, just because I'm one of those people that have this I need a plan. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I like having an initial plan, even if I have to veer off of it and read correct. I need an initial, plan of steps. So what I'll probably do is start off with one class. I start off with one book, or start off with this, and just kind of really delve on it and really try to grasp the concepts.
All right. I mean? So your step 1 is get an overview of the skill.
Yeah, or whatever it is. For example, the last thing I really kind of dove into was sales. The first thing I did was I just asked a bunch of salespeople, or Google searched it, really good sales books, good sales books for the concepts of sales, or just really, top rated sales books to read. And I kind of just dove into it, and just so I had an understanding of the different key things that I need to, emphasize and focus on, and the different things that I need to pay attention to.
Okay. All right. So step 1, overview of the skill. What's
or I might pick somebody's brain about it. You know what I mean? Somebody that does it well. I'll probably pick their brain about it, ask them, what are their routines and rituals.
Okay. So so overview of the skill, and then kind of acquire best practices.
Yes.
All right. So what's your step 2?
My step 2 is, once I have an overview of the skill, and then I realize where are those really key fulcrum or leverage points. In sales would be listening, question asking, transitioning, and getting through objections and things like that.
Yeah.
Those key things, I find the situations that I run into the most, and just kind of focus on working those out, or working on those real key components that make the difference between good and bad.
You know what I mean? I had a boss. What my boss would call this. He would have called that moving the big rocks. So you figure out what the big rocks are, and you get used to and you figure out ways to move those big rocks.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Yeah, because once you move the big rocks, once you got the big rocks all moved into a pile, only got the little rocks is left, then it looks like you're half done with the project.
Yeah.
Even though if there's more big little rocks by mass than the big rocks, right? It still looks like you're half done.
Exactly, and it's more of really just nailing your fundamentals, because you can't get from step. You can't get to Z without going through B, C, D, and every other letter.
Absolutely, got it.
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, I guess step 1 would really be concepts and reverse engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Starting off where I want to be and what I want to be doing.
Got it.
And then figuring out, those steps that I need to really work on and really, add up into each other.
Okay. Yeah. So your step 1 is take an overview, visualize what's your end result you want to be, and then your step 2 is figure out what the major parts of doing that of these skills are. Breaking it down into 4 key areas, 5 key areas, 3 key areas, figuring out what you need to break it down into, and then working those particular key areas.
Yeah, and then you just break those key areas into other small exercises. You know what I mean? I
Absolutely.
treat it just like sports. In baseball, you want to be a good hitter.
Yep.
What do good hitters do? Good hitters stay balanced. Good hitters have a level swing. Good hitters don't swing at bad pitches. and good hitters are patient. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
what are the things that can make me do all these things? Or like, you know what I mean? How can these things be practiced? All right, these are the exercises that match up with this. So let's do these exercises and do them until we're sick of it, until we can't miss them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It just adds up into each other.
Good. Yeah. No, I think that's a good approach for people who are, especially if we're talking sales, right? That's a good approach to anybody who's ever, who's new to sales but has, played some baseball or some other sport, to think about, to demystify it, right? Like, just like with baseball, just like with basketball, just like with wrestling, break down to figure out what your key areas are, break them down, work those skills, work those, techniques, and then use those techniques to get you to outcomes that you want to have.
Exactly. And I feel like you said something that's kind of key there that might have flew under the radar, the word demystify.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like, especially a lot of like people starting off, they automatically, initially when you start any journey, or like you start off anywhere, you automatically look to the end goal and you look at the reason why you're even going to start in the first place.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times, a lot of people don't even start because they're like, I don't know how I'm going to get to that.
Right.
Well, the only way to get to that is to realize that, like, they got to that through the process. You know what I mean? And the process is literally just work and consistency in your work. So, like, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like you can't become a work of art before being a work in progress. Like, it's all just small things that lead into each other.
Yeah, and then I especially in sales, when, like, it's been a long time since I was new to sales, but like I can remember that when I was new, it did seem like closing a deal seemed mystical. It seemed like magic. When other people did it, I had no idea how they did it. When it happened for me, I had no idea how I did it. When it didn't happen for me, I had no idea how I didn't do it,
Yeah.
And so it does seem like, and any new skill that's really worth learning is going to seem mystical, right? It's going to seem like magic, like you have no idea how to do it. So that was always what my first thing when I'm trying to learn something, or remember something when I was trying to learn sales is like, okay, I need to make this so it doesn't seem like so impossible, because it's not. So like, what are these little things that I'm missing? What are these things that I need to do? What are these routines that I can work so it doesn't have to be like magic? I can understand it.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the biggest part of that comes with a willingness to work and learn.
Yep.
Like, because you'll never understand it or grasp it if you never set forth the effort to do so. And in order to do that, you have to let go of your ego, whether it be saying, I'm too good to learn this, or I already know everything, or saying, or just like kind of letting go of the fact that you feel like you're too dumb to learn it. Like, nobody's too dumb to learn anything. Like, just apply yourself.
I'm definitely too dumb to learn Linux. That's so. That's so. Not gonna happen.
Let me take that back. Let me restructure that, because there are some people that are like too dumb to learn things, but like
too dumb to be a nuclear physicist.
When it comes to the things you're supposed to be doing and that you can do well at, you can learn it. Like, everybody has that one thing that they naturally gravitate to and pick up easier than others.
Yeah.
So you just kind of, it's more along of finding the thing that fits you, and then like setting forth the effort to making it work for you.
Yeah. And and as much as I took the opportunity to what's it called, self-deprecate there, I do see your point. It's especially with, you nailed me, right, with the ego and the rest of the stuff. Like, I am obviously not too old to learn anything. That even the thing about teaching a new dog an old trick, right, or say teaching an old dog a new trick, right, even that's scientifically dubious, where they're like, do dogs get to a point where they can't learn stuff, so like, even that saying is kind of silly. And I get that I'm not really a computer, and I don't have to delete, something I know how to do to make space for something else, right? Like, it is an ego thing, right? It's also a time and energy thing too, and it's tough to, like, be 37 and have all these things in your life you need to do, right? And then makes time and energy, sacrifice napping, sacrifice sleeping, sacrifice doing whatever you need to do to, like, learn this other new skill. But, like, I probably should put some energy into, if not, like, to having some better basics when, like, talking about, like, an app, right? Like, that's, like, one of these days I am going to have a business or be working at a business where some building blocks of knowing how an Android app would work, or to make an Android app, or to hire somebody to make an Android app would be a beneficial thing to do. I should probably put some energy into doing that. So you have convinced me. I will put some energy into learning how to do that.
There you go. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm just...
What's your final step when it comes to learning a skill? How do you know you've learned this skill?
Well, I mean, the only way that you really know that you've learned a skill is after smacking your head into the wall of failure numerous times. And I feel like you never truly completely learn a skill, because you've never... I feel like even the masters don't completely understand that thing, you know what I mean, that they're the master of. They just understand that they can't control everything. They understand that there's a certain point where they're completely competent and they can handle it, and there are areas in which they can't. They just learn to operate more so in the areas of competence.
Got it.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, the best hitter in baseball to ever do it, Pete Rose, right?
Sure.
A lot of failure.
Yeah.
He's the best player to ever hit, right? He hit 400. He hit like either Pete Rose or somebody else. They hit 400 or whatever. Or
yeah, I believe Pete Rose still has the record for most hits. I believe he still does. I could be wrong.
He has the most hits, but in the game of baseball, you're otherworldly. You're above average if you hit the ball 3 out of 10 times.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You are hitting the ball 4 out of 10 times is unheard of.
Yeah.
So, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You can be great at your job at baseball if you have a 70% failure rate.
Yeah. So, like, I just feel like when you say that you learn something, you just understand where your strengths and your weaknesses are. Like, you're more competent, but I don't think you ever completely, like, master something.
So your step 4 is keep working at it.
Yeah, like, you never stop working at it.
Yeah.
That is... You just never stop. Because, I mean, think about it. As long as you're doing it, you're still learning.
Yeah. Yeah, and like in the cell phone business, right? Where like there's like a 3-year proficiency arc, right? I know that sounds very intimidating, but trust me, it's not. Because what happens is, halfway in your first year, you actually are about as good as you're ever gonna be at it, right? And then the next year after that, you kind of finish that off. Right, you really are as good as you're ever going to be at it. And your third year, usually, especially if you're a top earner, your third year is usually the last of your good ones. Your fourth and fifth year, they better be looking to make you a boss by then, because you're not going to be selling as good as the guys coming up behind you. Hopefully, you can teach good. Hopefully, you've learned how to do the paperwork and you've proved yourself a reliable person. But they need to be moving you off the floor, because, people just don't stay that sharp on it. Now, that's not the rule. I've seen guys who can close deals for 10 years and guys who do all kinds of other stuff. But typically, your second and third year are your highest production, years, your highest commissioned years, your highest handset, sales years. And I'm not sure if every single business is like that. I bet you in the car business, it's probably closer to 5 or 6 years, before you start seeing that, you're a drop off, or the competition behind you, like the new guy that they hired, is better than you at it. And I really think that's it's a thing of concentration. It's a thing about energy, and it's also a thing about, you know, like these skills that you're learning, right? Like they're only fresh, and you can be conscious competent at them for only so long to your competent inconscious, and when you're competent unconscious, a person you're competing with who's competent and conscious is going to have an advantage, you know?
Yeah, because like it comes to, yeah, I feel like once you're, like you're saying, like it's all centered around the level of engagement and fulfillment.
Yep.
Or like you're saying, once you hit that level of competence unconscious, like you don't think or care, because it's just like, I do this, I've done this successfully so many times, like it ultimately doesn't matter. You're like, I know when I can turn it on. I feel like the average person is like, I know I can turn it on when I want to, so like I don't care.
Yeah, and it's just the human brain isn't. I mean, like part of sales, right, is like being able to survive the mundanity of the boring parts of sales, you know, so you can get to the exciting parts, right? And just the human brain isn't set up to constantly be doing that mundanity over and over again. Like, not everybody's human brain. Some people can perfectly do it just fine, but most of us, right? Like that mundanity, you know, just numbs us to a point where we start missing things. We're not as effective. We don't have that energy. We can't, you know, be as productive because we don't get an adrenaline rush when we need that adrenaline, because we've been there a million times. You know, adrenaline is not for use on a regular basis. It's used for rare occasions, and it can spur, you know, creativity and, you know, productivity in ways that, you know, you just can't do without it. So, you know, like, and then the person who's been working there 2 years, who you've been beating that whole time, right? You know, like, who, you know, when they started working, you were beating them, and a year ago you were beating them, but now they're beating you because they're starting to get to the top of their most effective time period, while you're getting to the bottom. Also, things change, and as I mentioned with the just being old, once if you got all your brain pathways wired to, you know, do a sales process this way, and then the company's goals change, the software they use for, you know, ringing things out changes, all that stuff changes, and the other guy doesn't have to deal with knowing the old stuff. All he's got to do is work on the new stuff. Then again, he's got an advantage, even if the new stuff is similar. You know, just not having that baggage of the old stuff, you know, is going to give that person an advantage.
Yeah, it's a very tricky world. It's like sales is a very funny game. Yep. It's very interesting to watch, especially when you think of things from a competitive standpoint, especially when you talk about sales floor.
Yep.
Especially in the cell phone business, I noticed that there are a lot of twists and turns because promotions are always coming and going.
Yep. And company goals like and pay plans are always changing, you know. And I I always thought like that was really one of the worst things about it, right? Was pay plans changing, because, you know, a pay plan is the operating system in which your commission is created, right? And an operating system causes your brain to get wired a particular way, right? Imagine like if Apple went and moved the icons on your screen, right? It would stress you out for a second until you figured it out, like, oh, that's where that is now, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You're right.
And that's same thing with your commission, right? It's like, oh, that's where, you know, like, you know, and again, if the person that you're competing against doesn't have to deal with that, doesn't have to deal with remembering where the old one is, to, you know, like, that person has a slight advantage on you. And, you know, depending on what your proficiency level is and what your talent level is compared to their talent, that might be just enough to beat you.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the things that comes with, you know, like, being a salesperson for another company. Like, their goal is not to pay you. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, I mean, you know, like, they would argue that it is. Well, it is, totally is, right? But like, their goal is to create a pay plan that aligns with their profit motives, and sometimes the pay plan they created does not do that. Sometimes the pay plan they created is adverse to their profit motives. So then they got to figure out some other way to motivate you.
Oh yeah.
by yelling at you is typically how they pull that off. When they create a pay plan that's actually detrimental to their profit motive, usually punishing you, yelling at you, is the way that they get you back in line. But that is a good episode for another day, is navigating the pay plan.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a good one.
All right, so as far as learning a new skill, like where do you find the energy to constantly push yourself to try and do stuff like that?
I don't know. I mean, honestly,
there's no hope then.
I'm trying to be better about it.
I was gonna tell. I thought you were gonna say, but it's behind your bed. That's where the energy is. You didn't know that? Oh God, you gotta reach behind your bed and get it.
I do learn a lot. I read a lot. I pick a lot of things. But I feel like the most key thing to do is to actually start putting things in motion. Like, I've started getting a lot better about that. Like, because that's where the real learning is. Because I mean, you can spend all the time in the world researching something, but until you put it into motion, you're really not learning. You're just recycling and regurgitating.
Yeah, that's that thing. You're right, man. That is the best way to get the energy, to start putting that foot in front of the other and just go down the hill, right? Let the gravity be the energy.
Because then you have momentum.
Yeah.
And then once you know, then you like next thing you know, you're done with your first thing. Like you know what I mean? Like, I started doing that, just taking everything and doing it one step at a time, and like everything else is starting to roll. So
yeah, all right. Well, I think that's my motivational move for the day. You're absolutely right. I will, to help motivate me and into learning this skill on how to create an Android app. I'm gonna go and get a developer's account from the Google Play Store. That's the first step. You got to have a Google. Even if I built an app right now on my computer, I can't get in the Play Store unless I have the developer account. So I'll go and do that, and it's probably just like a page of paperwork I got to fill out, then hit the button and sit and wait. And I'll do that.
Well, I mean, I'd probably talk to a developer, read a book on it or something.
Yeah.
Articles on it, just get the basics.
Yeah, so you think that should be the first thing, to snag a book on developing Android apps?
Not snagging a book on it. I mean, you could snag a book on it if you want to dive that deep into it. But, I mean, like, if I were you, like, there's a lot of step-by-step. I mean, you can learn through video, you can learn through audio, you can learn through reading. Like, I would grab a step-by-step or just look up why does this do that, like, just so you understand what you're putting together and why.
Because my end goal isn't to make the next Twitter. My end goal is to know enough about app development that, like, if I need to hire somebody to make an app, I could do that without much fear of getting ripped off. Just a little fear of getting ripped off. Yeah.
Oh, that's doable on it. I feel like that's doable through reading.
Yeah, that's what. Well, no, I should probably make an app though. I should probably make something, tic-tac-toe, something.
Okay. Do what you want to do.
Yeah, just that way. That way, I have like the full hands-on, all the stuff that you wouldn't know by just reading a book. I will know by reading a book and putting something in the App Store.
Yeah. Yep. And then once you do that, just take it step by step.
All right. Hey, why don't you take the last word on the learning stuff? What's the most important thing you want to leave people with?
The most important thing to leave people with is to actually take action on that. Like, if you think about doing it and you think to yourself, that would be a good idea, I mean, take action on it. Pick a book up, read into it, but don't kill yourself with information. Don't spend all your time reading. Once you have enough information to take that first step, take your first step, run into your first wall, and then ask yourself how you're going to get around that wall, and just keep on getting around walls until you have something built together.
Yeah, as another old boss would say, activity breeds productivity.
Yeah, I mean, your brain puts things together a lot better once you're actually doing them.
There you go. Well, that does it for this particular episode of the BusinessXtoY podcast. I'd like to thank all of you folks for being the best part of my day. Please like and share the podcast and give us a review on iTunes. That'd be great. You can find us by going to BusinessXtoY letter X, the word to y.com, or by searching on any of these particular podcast services, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Castbox, for BusinessXtoY. Again, that's Business X, the word to Y, and you can find us that way. So now that you're done listening, go make a profit.